Welcome to this week's Kingdom School of Empowered Living. I'm Pastor Kirsch Darvel, and I have with me today a number of counselors from the University of Bahamas. And today we'll be dealing with the topic of mental health in academia. You know, we think about the beginning of a school year and the topic of mental health. So many persons coming into the university would come in with expectations of pressures of achievement, what they're going to achieve in life, the workload, their personal expectations. They're coming in with significant stress and anxiety. And so I think today is a perfect time when the university opens and when Bahamas Faith Ministries has a number of persons within our fellowship who are going back to school. And of course, the viewing audience, there's a number of persons who are going back to university or who may be going for the very first time, as well as we think about professors and those lecturers and those persons out there can go through what we believe are times of stressful times within the university and with academia. And so I am so pleased today to have a panelist of persons from the University of the Bahamas, and I'm so happy to have them here today. And they're going to be really sharing from their own personal experience and as well as counselors how to address this topic. But our key scripture as we open up today is found in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 to 6. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight." And we believe that if persons within the university, within life, would acknowledge the Lord, we believe that God indeed make their path straight. But this application of scripture is important to relying on the guidance and the trust in God, even in university, even in academia. And so as we open up today, I am going to ask Dr. Christine Curtis to just say a little bit about herself, first of all. What is her role with the university? And then we're going to come with all following there, come straight around back to me as to what their role is with the university, their name, and their position with the university. Dr. Christine.
Thank you so much, Pastor Kirsch, and thank you for having or inviting us here. I am Christine Curtis, Dr. Christine Curtis, and I'm the director of the University Center for Counseling and Career Services. I'm also an international certified addiction professional, and I am clinically trained to work with individuals who are experiencing emotional disorders, psychological disorders, and behavioral disorder. It's a privilege of me working with individuals. To me, I believe it's a calling and a gift that the Lord has blessed me with. And I passionately and hopefully energetically served our student body. Thank you.
Hello, I am Dr. Melissa Niobe Mackey. I am the Career and Job Placement Counselor at the university. I am primarily responsible for ensuring that students have opportunities to engage in career development, that they are aware of job opportunities that are available to them, that they become proficient in networking and practicing navigating tools as they go through the job search process. I'm also responsible for ensuring that they have education, of course, hard skills, which they get in the classroom setting, but of course, soft skills, as well as talent acquisition. So many times we do have employers connect with the office looking for our students to become employees in their organizations, and I'm responsible for that link as well. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Camille Smith. I am Assistant Director of the University Center for Counseling and Career Services. I am the coordinator for a course that our department offers. It's called First Year Seminar, and it's focused on orienting our new students to the university environment and working with them to develop strategies for college success. One of my areas of specialty as a counselor is working with interpersonal violence. So I work directly with students or survivors of domestic and sexual violence. And as such, we're able to offer a very wide basis of services for the university. Thank you for having us here to talk about mental health and the academic journey.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Arnold Martin, and I too am a counselor in the University Center, and I offer specialized skills in the area of learning support. And so my role at the university is to mitigate any academic challenges that students have through programs and various means. Also while offering social, emotional, interpersonal counseling that can also factor into reasons why students further don't do well in their classes. Currently, I am also the coordinator of the Jumpstart program, which is a dual enrollment program where we get high school students who are qualified to enroll at the university, earning credits prior to graduation in hopes of retention.
Hello, my name is Colin Major, and I am an academic counselor at the University of the Bahamas. I am responsible for those students who are struggling academically. We call them at-risk students. I always liken my area to the area of baseball. In baseball, 3 strikes you're out. And my goal is to ensure that our students don't strike out. But sometimes they do.
Yes.
If they have a bad semester, they go on academic warning. Another bad semester, it goes on academic probation. And then the 3rd strike, they're out. So we try to put on programs to help students get back on track, to catch themselves, and so they can eventually graduate. And that brings me to my next role. I'm also co-chair of the graduation committee. So I want to see them cross the finish line too. So it's a good place to be in. I can see you when you're struggling, help you get back up on your feet, and then help you make it across the finish line. I'm happy to be here and be a part of this panel.
Good stuff. I really love your role, Mr. Major. Because so many times students struggle within the university, especially as we mentioned earlier, coming into this program today. People come in with expectations of university, and then the pressure of it when they don't live up to. Dr. Christine, when I think about just yesterday in particular, my wife and I met with my nephew who was going off to university for the very first time. So this program today is beneficial for him. So he left today to go off to university. And so we spent time speaking into his life. And one of the key things that I've discovered in speaking with him is so many times when we talk to persons who are going into university first time, they have this pressure that they got to live up to, of what the parents are putting on them. Like he's going off for the first time, we're telling him, listen, man, go there, make us proud, and and make your grades. And so they leave home with all these expectations of I am carrying the weight of this family on my shoulder. But the key thing is to make them understand that there's a journey to education. There's a journey, there's a process, and that their mental health is going to be determined by how they feel about themselves and about their journey. So with that in mind, I'm going to start off with my good friend here, Dr. Christine, and my colleague here also at the ministry, who serves along with me in the ministry. I'm going to ask you the first question today, which is to provide a synopsis on the importance of mental health and academia, inclusive of defining what mental health versus mental illness is. What is the difference between that? Because sometimes you hear those, and people may use them interchangeably.
Absolutely.
Define what is the difference here.
Thank you, Pastor Kirsch. Mental health and academia. The University of the Bahamas has always been more than a place for academic learning.
Yes.
Because we understand that social learning environments are where students develop emotionally and socially. Integrating mental health in academia supports the fabric of learning environments as it creates a nurturing environment for students to survive and thrive academically and psychologically. So in the academia context, research has proven that mental health is closely linked with academic performance and the overall climate of learning institutes. But I want to highlight some facts from the World Health Organization, which states that 1 in 4 people will be affected by mental disorder at some point in their life. Major depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. 4 out of 5 people in developing countries do not receive treatment.
Right.
Why you think they don't receive treatment? Some of them are not aware what's going on in their body. Some of them may not know that treatment is available, and some may not know that the disorder is treatable.
Yes.
And when we talk about mental disorders, we're talking about anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and bipolar trauma. The list goes on. And so, what is mental health? And I want to declare right now that your mental health is very important. Your mental health is very important. We cannot overemphasize that enough. Mental health includes our psychological, our emotional, and social well-being. It affects how we think, how we feel, and how we act. Our mental health helps determine how we handle stress, how we relate to others, and how we make choices. Mental health is a state of well-being in which each person realizes his or her potential. They can cope with the normal stresses of life. They can work productively and fruitfully. And most importantly, they are able to positively contribute to society. What is mental illness? According to World Health Organization, mental illness is a clinically significant disturbance in a person's cognitive ability, unable to think, their emotional regulation in terms of what they're feeling throughout their body, and of course their behavior, how they act. And most of the time, 90% of the time, it is associated with distress or impairment in areas of functioning. So you want them to function holistically. And finally, I want to mention the common signs of mental disorder before we engage our colleagues. Feeling sad, withdrawn for more than 2 weeks, excessive worrying or fear that gets in the way of daily activities. Again, unable to function. Then severe mood swings that cause problems. And that's why sometimes you see persons, you don't know what is going on with them. You don't know what you say. Everyone is different. And you don't know what you say or do can trigger and cause problems. Difficulty concentrating and learning. Again, mental health is closely linked with academia. Sudden, overwhelming fear for no reason. they're alone, and they just overwhelmed, begin to cry all by themselves. Overwhelming fear. Changes with eating, thinking about suicide. So they are alone and they're thinking all of these irrational thoughts. I'm no good. I'm not worthy. I am fearful. I'm lonely. Nobody loves me. I don't know if I will be loved. I'm a failure. I don't know if I will make it. And the list goes on. And those irrational thoughts, then suicidal ideation. They begin to think about it. Those irrational negative thoughts. And that's, of course, cause suicide to be a part of their dilemma. And then I don't want to forget overuse of substances and alcohol. And while we are talking about mental health and academia, I want to throw this number out for persons who may be watching this program and you may be experiencing some of the mental challenges that was just described. We want you to feel free to call this number 427-1772 for assistance and support. Your mental health matters. And if it isn't functioning, certainly for students and others, you will not be able to concentrate and learn. They go hand in hand.
Wow. Wow. That's a powerful definition. You want to go a little bit further with that. Dr. Melissa Mackey, I want to ask you, what causes mental illnesses in students? What brings that about?
Well, there are several rather factors that contribute to students' mental health issues. And some go as far back as prenatal damage. If they've been exposed to substances in the womb from the mother choosing not to refrain from alcohol and drugs, they are predisposed to certain mental health issues. Then there are biological factors, those things related to our health and our physical well-being that can be issues as well, whether they're acute, chronic, or recurring issues. Things like, let's say a child is in school wanting to be a regular teenager that enjoys teenage life, but battling certain illnesses, sickle cell disease, diabetes. Those can be issues that cause great mental health issues, because they want to feel a part. They may want to eat certain things. They may want to be in school normally without being disrupted, to spend time in hospital. So those sorts of things can weigh on a teenager mentally. Then there are some genetic issues based on the family history. When students or teenagers rather can be exposed to schizophrenia, which is actually genetic. Okay. Then there are environmental factors, day-to-day issues that we come in contact with. And I remember growing up, they would always say to us, well, you don't have any problems here, child. Y'all don't know what adult problems all about. But really and truly, is it fair to minimize the things that are important in their world? Things like bullying. That can be a big factor. Living in a home with parents that aren't getting along very well. Actually being victims of abuse, be it verbal, sexual, physical, emotional, you name it. And then there are transitions. You talked about your nephew who's heading off to college. That's a big transition. It's going to be a cultural transition. Of course, he's going to experience a level of independence that he's never experienced before. So those environmental issues, and that's just to name a few, that can weigh on a student's mental health.
That's amazing, and it's so true. But I want to ask you another question. And
Yes, sir.
when you think about students coming in, like my nephew and others, coming in, but not necessarily him, but coming into the university,
Mhm.
does coming in under those conditions, like leaving home for the first time,
Yes.
is that opportunity to expose the mental issue? Is that you're finding that's a lot of time when it really comes to the surface for some students because they're away from home for the first time. They are faced with this challenge of having to now be an adult, so to speak. How do you, as a person who may be a counselor, how do you address a new person coming into university like that?
That's a very good question. And I have to say at this time that even at the university,
Yeah.
we have an office that is designated to our Family Island students and our
Yes.
international students
Mhm.
to help them with the adjustments.
Right.
When I do have those sorts of clients, I find that one of the biggest issue would be adjusting to the new home environment. I used to be able to do this at home or not be able to do this at home. But now in this new environment, I'm not able to do this or I'm expected to do this. And it can be quite uncomfortable. So in issues, when faced with students like that, I try to really focus on coping skills. This is your present reality. This is where you have to live, of course, unless abuse is involved.
Right.
And sometimes it's just an annoying aunt that wants you to clean up all the time, doesn't understand that you have homework to do.
Yes, yes.
So looking at coping skills, maybe staying at school for extended periods of time and not going home as early as you would have normally gone if, the home environment was conducive. Yeah. So really honing on coping skills and helping them to understand the things that are within their control to manage their mental health.
That's very good. I'm going to ask now Mr. Colin Major pretty much the same question. Many students struggle with the first time in semester. What are some of the things that students can do to make that transition to college or university easier? I remember my wife, and it's so interesting, Dr. Melissa, where you mentioned about them coming from the island, because my wife told me when she first came from the island, she was in the all-age school, coming to Nassau, big university, having to change classes. She said, "Man, I cried the first day." She said, "I cried because there was no classroom to change, right?" So she came to Nassau. Actually, was in high school, but coming to university was a little bit more easier. At that time, it was College of Bahamas. But how do you address the students coming in who are struggling for the first time and that transition to university to make it easier for them?
Well, one
What
of
is
the
your role
things, thank you, Pastor Kirsch.
Mm.
One of the things we discover about students coming in
Mm.
is they have come from an environment where they were going to school from 8 until 3, and now their first class starts at 12 or 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So they don't know how to manage their time. They think they have all of this free time and don't know what to do with it. So what I try to tell students to do is to get an early jump on the semester in terms of planning. They need to set up a study schedule, because one of the main reasons why students fail is because they don't plan their time, and then they don't know how to study. When you get assignments, you need to tackle them right away. Get yourself a planner that you can put down all of your assignments in and the dates that they are due, and do the work right away, and instead of procrastinating. I asked my class this morning, I said, put the hands up of all those who procrastinate. I said, mine is up too. We all procrastinate.
Exactly.
But it's just how much you procrastinate. So get to the work, do it quickly, and then you need to develop some good study habits. If you have good study habits, that can tide you through, because it's a planned way of how to attack my studies. You get an assignment, you need to read the chapter, and then you need to go over it and review it, and always study for tests on time. And a lot of students do not have good study habits. We have a lot of academic resources at the University of the Bahamas. The peer tutoring is one of them. Okay. If you're struggling, if you know you're weak in a subject, you need to make arrangements to get help as a peer tutor. And one of the main things is don't struggle alone. I told my students today, I said, you see the hands of all of those who came to the university to fail. I said, now all of you are going to be successful. I put that in their mind, first of all. None of you are gonna fail. We are here to support you, and the counseling department is here. You need to come and spend time with us. I also tell my students, what you need to do is make connections while you're in your classes. Get to know somebody in your class that's in any of your other classes, and you guys can work together. I put all of my students in a WhatsApp group. And I just finished the WhatsApp group for the class today, and it's the way we liaise and they connect with one another. Everyone is to get the name of 5 persons in the class. In case you have to miss, you can always ask the other student. And I tell them always find 2 persons who are smarter than you so you can learn from them. 2 is not as smart as you so you could teach them. And 2 are on par with you. But another important thing for students to learn how to do is don't let setbacks get you down. In college, the transition is oftentimes not that easy, but you can do some things that can help you to avoid getting into trouble. For example, like skipping classes and not doing your assignments on time, and not learning how to find the balance. You need to, oftentimes, I heard mentioned before about your parents now realize, well, you in college and you got all this time to yourself, they give you all kinds of things to do. So the prescription to that is, I say, listen, come, let's set up a study schedule. And what you do, go to your parents and say, listen, mommy, how would you like it if I brought home an F in my classes? And you were gonna need F in your classes, such and such is gonna happen. So I said, that's the opportunity for you to say then, but in order for me to get good grades, I need to have a schedule and I need to study. So here's my schedule. Now I know you have things for me to do. So I would like to know if we could plan these out at this particular time. So you go in there with a plan to your parents, and that way they don't put all the pressure on you. But you have to have a goal for everything you do, for every assignment that you take in a class. Your goal for the class is an A, and that means you need to get an A on every assignment. What happens if you don't get it?
Right. That's a powerful thing. I remember going in, and the thing is, sometimes you leave from a high school where teachers are dictating things to you.
Right.
They're hand feeding you all this information, but now you're in university. You got to make your own notes. What do you talk to? How do you address that in terms of adjusting? Because that lifestyle, adjusting from high school to university, means you're on your own.
Well, you see, it's all a part of the first year seminar too.
Okay.
And all of us teach that. And the purpose of that course is to help you make the transition. We talk about goal setting. We talk about how to make notes, how to study, how to have friends, how to bounce back when you fall down, how to write papers. So it's a tool designed so that once you go through the course, there is no way you can fail. You can use that information to help you to transition from your first semester straight throughout your year. But at the same time, it's the easiest course to fail.
Wow.
Easiest course to fail. Wow. And it's simply because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Wow. But like I told them today, I said, you may not like me, but I don't let you fail. I said, it's going to be difficult to fail in my class, but I'm going to be on your case every time you miss an assignment. I need, and sometimes students need that kind of push. And not to be left alone in an encouraging sort of way to kind of help them to know, hey, listen, college is not play. You have to take it seriously. At the same time, you can have fun.
Yes. I think what you're doing is great because you're helping with the mental world, you're helping them to plan, and how to engage, how to think about the future, what is it you're here for. So they're getting that foundation about studying, find their peers, who's good, who's smart enough, who's not, who you can bring up. So you're teaching. So that's great stuff. I see you got a point down there, Doctor.
And all international university has that course, first year seminar. So you maybe can ask your nephew to be sure and enroll for a first year seminar course. Because as Mr. Major was sharing with you, it's all about connection and information. All of that reduce mental illness because we don't know what they're coming in to the university with. And fear will trigger.
Absolutely.
So that connection and that information is critical.
Wow. I love the idea about having a peer, having somebody or people who just like you coming in, whom you can learn from and who you can also give back to.
make you an accountability partner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Love that. Love that. Now we have Mr. Arnold Martin, sir. How does understanding students' personality type helping managing their mental health in relation to academic stress. So learning and knowing about yourself. You want to speak a bit about that? How do you help person to understand that? Because knowing me, understanding your own self is very important.
Which is true.
Yeah, so talk about that.
So with my clients, a strategy that I use with all of them, no matter the problem, whether it's academic or not, is the first thing I ask them is to tell me a little bit about yourself. And so you're able to gauge how well this individual actually knows themselves. And so I often assign homework, after getting enough information, I want you to go home and these are some things that I want you to identify about yourself. Because the truth is, a principle of mine is you cannot conquer what you cannot operationalize.
What are some of these questions?
Some of these questions would be, a lot of people say, the devil made me do it, or I have anger issues. And so I would say, I need you to identify your triggers. What triggers you? What creates anxiety for you? I would always ask them the simple one, who am I? As simple as that. And so in terms of personality, if you don't fully know who you are, something that's so simple could become so chaotic and so hectic. And so what I've realized is that with students, one of the ways that our personality types could actually assist us is with coping strategies. The more you know yourself, you're able now to identify your stressors. You're able to identify your triggers. And just in knowing these things, you're now capable of mitigating the issue better. You could avoid. All right, so for example, Mr. Major talked about time management. Personality, knowing your personality type, it helps with that.
Yes.
I know personally that while I don't like stress, I am a procrastinator, but I work well under pressure. And so we can eliminate stress from our lives. Let's begin with that. Stress is here. It's how well we're able to manage it. And so I know that I can deal with the pressures of it, but the other person will crumble under it. I've seen students crumble under the pressure of having 4 and 5 assignments due at the same time. Knowing your personality type now can help you mitigate it, where you stick to a schedule. And sticking to that schedule now can help you avoid what's inevitable if you don't follow, some kind of timeline.
I have a question. Now,
Sure.
You're talking about understanding your personality type,
Yes.
which is a stressor. Many students enter university not knowing themselves. Not only that, not knowing what they want to achieve by coming to university. So they may be taking a number of courses, but they don't know what they want to be when they graduate, where the major is going to be.
Okay.
Does this help them in any way? Because some of the stress is, I'm here and I don't even know what I want to be at the end of the day. Now, is this course in some way helping them, or this when they meet with you, is it something that's helping them kind of to lay at rest in their mind rather than taking general subjects? Maybe this can guide me or guide them in understanding self as to what they should be majoring in university. Does that help in any way?
Yeah, well, definitely, like my colleagues would have said, when I came to the University of the Bahamas and also being an alma mater of the university, I always referred to the counseling department as the superheroes on campus. And we know that superheroes, they have special abilities that help individuals solve problems. And it is no different with the University Center for Counseling. Mr. Major has his specified superpower. I have mine, Dr. Smith, Dr. Mackey, and Dr. Curtis. And so I would always tell students, any uncertainty that you have, no matter what it is, come into the center, arrange a meeting with a counselor, and we will help you get to the bottom of whatever the issue is. And so, yes, we often have students who are unaware of what they want to do. And we reassure them that's normal. and you are entitled to change your mind. But let's make certain that you don't change your mind when you're 2 credits away from completing a whole
My God,
degree.
you're speaking my story now.
Yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
definitely counselors, we're there to help massage that feeling of feeling overwhelmed because you're not sure.
Right.
Yeah, we
Good stuff.
definitely help
Good stuff. I
mitigate
see
that.
some hands. People
Yes,
want to make
I
some
just
comments.
wanted, thank you, to comment that within the
Yeah.
Office of Career and Job Placement Counseling, I'm responsible for career assessments to give them a better idea of the job fit for them. So we do find that students are in the wrong major, but usually my colleagues refer them directly to me for assessment, and then we try to redirect them to somewhere that they'll be more fulfilled.
Good stuff.
Mhm.
Excellent. You want to say something?
It is one other thing I do with students. There's something called multiple intelligences.
Yes.
We think we only have one type of intelligence, but you could be spatial, musical, and all of these different areas. And I will give them that. I said, listen, now let's look at what your strengths are. And high in musical, are you studying music? Have you ever thought about that as a career? When they began to see their strength in these areas, and I said, here are possible careers. Oh, I didn't realize that. So all of we all work together with different
Absolutely.
strategies. And
Referrals.
yes,
All the line.
and it helps them to begin to look at possibilities.
Great.
One other thing I
Sure.
want to, Mr. Major talked about multiple intelligences, and when we get to the core of that, it's personalities.
That's right.
So it all goes right back to personalities, because one personality type is called analyst. And so a person with an analyst personality type, they would probably be inclined to recognize that a strength of theirs is problem solving. And so again, once we can identify those personality types, and we do that within the department. So all of our first year students, for the first year seminar, we send out packages where students get to identify their personality types. Absolutely critical in mitigating the obvious issues that will come.
I smiled because my son graduated in 2020, and in his last year of university, he saved accounting for the last year. There's 2 courses he had to do in accounting. And finally he gets in accounting, and he says, oh my God, I love accounting. He's getting ready to graduate. So he's now doing accounting, by the way, but sometimes you can miss it. Sometimes the consultant can miss it. They didn't see it, but he's analytical, just as you mentioned, but that was his destiny. He's now doing accounting. He's a fund accountant. He's just loving his job. But now he has to go back and get an accounting degree. But he has a marketing and management degree, but he loves accounting. But these things happen in the university. I'm going to now go to you, Dr. Camille. College life can be rigorous. How can students reduce stress and balance mental health in their educational journey? Because you're calling it is a journey. You're going through 4 years, 6 years in some cases. How do you have that balance?
Well, it's important to realize that going into university is perhaps one of the most stressful times. You might equate that to getting married, right? So it's a very stressful time. It's very difficult. There's a whole lot of factors that impact university life. But one of the things that's very important too is the mindset. We as a region, as a country even, tend to act like, well, you ain't supposed to seek help. So we don't have that culture that says it's okay to get help. But college life can be very difficult. So we spend a lot of time with exercising our physical health, but we don't spend a lot of focus on exercising our mental health. And one of the things that's very important to mental health, particularly when you come into a high stress factor or high stress situation, is to recognize that there are a lot of factors that impact stress. And that stress that becomes overwhelming can really lead to significant mental health issues. So you have 2 different types of stress. You have eustress, Eustress, that talks about the good stress, the stress that helps you to study properly, that helps you to prepare properly, that gets you motivated, that helps you to remember better. But if you have that stress hitting you too often, it can lead to distress. And distress comes from the thought that you don't have the resources that you need to get what you need done, completed. So when you go into university, if you go in with a deficit, sometimes students go into university and they already have a deficit. They're struggling with payment, perhaps. They're struggling with all of the pressures that you talked about. They're struggling with adjusting to a new environment. They're family island students, even just coming from a high school, perhaps, that they have been in that same high school for the last 5 years, and now they have to adjust. As I told my students this morning, you could have different teachers in every semester. There's no time for you to develop that kind of connection. So when you think of stress in university, one of the things we need to recognize is that there's a whole stress index. There's a whole stress index factors. So moving to a new environment, moving to new expectations, moving away from the environment that you were accustomed to, meeting new people, being exposed even to new people from different religions, from different backgrounds, having to face the requirement for all of those new assignments, having to deal with new teachers. All of these are different kinds of factors. Walking into a room and feeling like you don't know anybody. Right. All of those add to stress. So for basic stress management, there are 3 things that I always say to students that you could start doing and make sure that you're doing regularly. There's a lot of tips that I can talk about, but 3 basic things. Sleep, at least 8 hours a night. Now that sounds really basic, and students tell me, Dr. Smith, you're joking, right? I only sleep about 4 hours a night. But here's the thing. If you go for 2-3 days without proper sleep, you're not concentrating as well as you were accustomed to. You're not focused. You're not functioning as well as you are. And it has been said that after a few days without proper sleep, you are actually more susceptible to a possible breakdown. So you could have, even before you get to the breakdown, you could have increased irritability. You could have, as we said, increased loss of concentration. You could have feeling of being sick, running to the bathroom, you having headaches all the time, loss of ability to concentrate. So sleep, as simple as that is very recommended. Another one that's very recommended is 30 minutes of some kind of exercise that you're moving 5 times a week. So exercise absolutely has been proven by research to help manage stress. So keep it up, keep going, keep moving. And then a third one, and these are the basic ones. There's a whole list of tips I could give you. But the next basic one is diet. The type of food you eat can have direct impact on how you manage stress. If you're eating a bunch of chocolate and you're eating a bunch of starch and you're not trying to eat any vegetables, any tuna, any kind of juices, any kind of thing that can help you to feel stimulated, food, certain kinds of food can be a downer. Diet also include what Dr. Curtis was talking about when we talk about substance use. You have some students who, quite frankly, smoking marijuana. Not realizing how it can have such a significant impact on their functioning. And then when they're not functioning properly and they have assignments that they have missed and getting to class late, that adds to stress, adds to stress, adds to stress. And so then stress management just goes right out of the window. And the possibility for increased emotional and mental health issues can follow.
Wow, that's powerful. You said a mouthful there.
Yeah.
You know, that being able to manage your time, being able to eat and exercise, that's very, very, very important.
Right.
And a lot of students, of course, They are now in university managing. They have to manage their time, manage what they eat. So for parents, a lot of times that's one of the scary things is, what is my child eating? And they're eating. Some of them eating, all they're eating is pizza. So they're living on vitamin pizza.
Are they going?
Or
Are they going?
McDonald's, which is right across
Which
the
across the
road.
street as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Or
which is-
are they going out every night? Are they?
Right.
Are they?
Are they getting enough
because
sleep?
then they get
Yeah.
that freedom.
Oh yeah.
Even if they're here
Yeah.
at UB and not necessarily away, they still have freedom. They
I
don't
mean-
have teachers
Mhm.
who are remembering. Wait, all these. You're supposed to be in class. They don't have that.
Right. Right.
It's now all self-guided and self-governed.
Yes. Wow. Powerful stuff. As we close out today, because I want to give an opportunity for Dr. Curtis also to speak to the colleagues, to the teachers. And so lecturers and professors returning to the class, what tips can you or your colleagues share to help contribute to their productivity as well and their optimality?
And my tip to my colleagues, teachers, professors, and students also, self-care. Take care of self.
Take care of you.
And self-care is not a luxury. It is an ethical mandate. You must take care of yourself if you want to take care of others. The Bible says, love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Well, you cannot treat another person if you do not love them. And so one of the things I know, but I'm going to say stay connected to Jesus. Why I'm saying staying connected to Jesus? Because he is still the answer to all the world today.
Yes, absolutely.
And John 15:4 says, remain in me and I will remain in you, because without him or without me, meaning Jesus, you cannot do nothing. So I'm going to say to my colleagues, stay connected to Jesus, because he helps you, he energizes you, and he fills you with additional energy. And then, as my colleague mentioned earlier, exercise. You need it at least 30 minutes a day. Along with exercising, sleep 7 to 8 hours. We take sleep very lightly. But sleeping is critical, because if you have a mental challenge or a mental disorder and you're not getting sufficient sleep, the brain, that chemical imbalance, that's where it comes in. It affects the brain and it affects you cognitively. So you want to get sufficient sleep. Along with sufficient sleep, you want to establish boundaries. Boundaries are very important, because you want to make some time for some pleasure relaxation. And the relaxation can be very simple. Whether it's walking on the beach, I have students, I send them a lot, especially when they are experiencing panic attack. Go and walk on the beach. We are a blessed country where we can go on Goodman's Bay and sit down and just hear the shh, just hear the water flowing. That will assist you mentally. So cultivating your garden, that you can go and cultivate, grow that garden with some good stuff in terms of your cabbage, your tomato, etc. Visit the farmer's market. Small little relaxation. Taking a bubble bath. Let's not forget that. Go swimming. Help others. And then I want to finally say, demonstrate intentionality of being thankful, grateful, and hopeful.
Amen.
Which I believe give you the spirit of the Good Samaritan, and not the priest and the Levite who passed and went on the other side without helping the man who was left for dead. Be thankful, grateful, and hopeful, and go out and help that person.
Thank you so much. What a great way to end today. Thank you so much. I want to thank, today we had Mr. Colin Major, Mr. Arnold Martin, we had Dr. Christine Curtis, Dr. Willissa Mackey, Dr. Camille Smith. And I just want to say thank you so much for you guys taking time with your busy schedule today to be here to present on a topic today, mental health in academia and the journey for so many persons as they seek to achieve their academic life. And so I want to thank you so much for being here. We're going to take a break because we have some students that we want to interview, and we want to find out from them as well how they feel about facing university and also dealing with mental health in academia. So thank you so much for being a part of this week's Kingdom School of Power Living.
Thank you
We give you
for having us.
We say thank you so much.
Thank
God
you.
bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Ryan and Unique, it's great to have you here in Kingdom School of Power Living. Just got a few questions for you. I know that you are in your second year of university and you're in your first year as a freshman at the University of the Bahamas. But Ryan, I want to ask you, what do you think key factors contributing to teenagers and young adults' mental health? What do you think?
Well, thank you for the question. There are a lot of factors, but the key factors mainly, we live inside the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and we face a lot of natural disasters. And so the side effect can be trauma from natural disasters. You know, in 2019, we had Hurricane Dorian, and so that impacted many youth, especially in Grand Bahama and in Abaco as well. And then also a side effect from that is displacement. A lot of persons who were in Grand Bahama and Abaco had to relocate to Nassau, so that's a new environment. Oftentimes, they may not even be staying with any family. And then, unfortunately, some persons lost family members, especially their parents, their fathers, their siblings, etc. So that can have an extreme toll on the mental health.
And that again is you're relating it to university.
Yes.
That's correct. Yes.
And so a lot of students who came from Abaco and Grand Bahama, they were part of UB North. And so when they started university here in Nassau, they now equated to new life, a new environment, meeting new friends, and essentially starting all over.
Right. And that definitely can lead to a sense of having mental health issues because of the trauma of what happened through the hurricane, and they can have other reasons as well. But that's one of the things you want to identify today. Unique, as a university student, what can you recommend to students to combat and reduce mental illnesses?
Okay, thank you for the question. I believe that students can, of course, they can focus on their schoolwork, finish up assignments early, try not to focus on the negative as much. You can also talk to a counselor, a trusted adult, even a trusted peer. But for those who are more cagey with their feelings, you can always just write your emotions down. You can always go back to the basics. You can talk to God. I feel like for a lot of people, they don't want to really put their emotions out there, but I feel as though a healthy way to combat mental illness is by expressing your emotions, saying how you feel, and there's nothing wrong with just talking to God in an empty room. Focus on your faith. Another thing you can do, you can just focus on yourself more, exercise more, focus on your skin if that's what makes you happy. You can read books, write books even. You can always just turn that pain that you feel into a more positive habit.
Wow, I love that. I love the fact that you brought God into the equation, because a lot of times students don't understand praying and talking to God is a very key element in being able to overcome mental health issues.
Yes.
I'm going to now ask you, Brian, another question. How does lifetime factors such as diet, exercise, and sleep impact students' mental health?
Well, a lot of times we often say when you look good, you feel good. And so I'll use the analogy, when our house is clean, we feel good about ourselves.
Right.
And so the same is with our body. When we exercise regularly and we stay fit and healthy, we tend to feel good about ourselves.
Yes.
And in fact, exercise, it releases endorphin. And so that is a chemical, we call it the happy feeling.
Right,
and so that helps to reduce stress, helps to reduce anxiety, and helps to reduce pressure. And one of the things also is your sleep schedule. It's important to get a healthy sleep schedule. Sleep about 8, 9 hours a day.
Right.
I'm not there as yet, but I'll try. But one of the most important things is making sure that our sleep schedule isn't an excuse to escape our issues. because a lot of times persons use sleeping as their coping mechanism. You know, when something is wrong at school or at home, they just tend to sleep it off. And that's what we want to avoid.
Very good, very good. I'm going to ask you one last question. You're fresh when going into University of the Bahamas this semester. So for you, how are you planning to deal with and to maintain a good mental health throughout the semester? What are your plans as you go in?
Okay. Personally, I feel as though I've actually started doing things to combat these issues. I've put myself on a time schedule so I can manage my classes properly so I don't have to stress myself out. I've also started exercising more often to help clear my mind. After class, I don't want to go right back into the books because that's just a lot of pressure on myself. So I would rather go for a run on the park or something before I come back, take a shower, start fresh with a clean canvas.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
So I'm praying God that you both will have a great semester.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being a part of Kingdom School of About
Thank
Living,
you, God.
taking time out of your busy schedule.
Yes, sir.
So we want to thank you all, our viewing audience today. Thank you so much for being a part of Kingdom School of About Living. My name is Pastor Kirsch Darvel. We have had a great time today talking about mental health and academia. May God bless you. Until next week. See you again next week on Kingdom School of About Living. God bless.
Thank you for watching this week's Kingdom School of Empowered Living. If you've been blessed by tonight's program, let us know in the comments section or by emailing us at mystory.bfmi@gmail.com. Just got saved? Let us know and we will send you the book, What Do I Do Now? A 13-step guide by Dr. Dave Burrows to help you navigate through taking the next steps in your faith walk. Looking for a place to belong? Join us Sundays at 10 a.m. online or in person for our Kingdom Celebration service here at Bahamas Faith Ministries in beautiful Nassau, Bahamas. We promise you, your life will never be the same. Be sure to join us again next Wednesday at 8 p.m. for another Kingdom School of Empowered Living.